A soft golden glow filtered through the kitchen windows, bathing the polished wooden countertops in warm light. The savory crackle of bacon filled the air as Freddie expertly flipped each strip, his movements smooth and instinctive, humming a familiar tune, one forever tied to their tranquil mornings. He moved with the effortless grace of someone performing a cherished ritual. This quiet tradition was one of the many ways he expressed his love for Sabrina, but today was different. Today marked their 21st wedding anniversary. Freddie found comfort in his daily routines, particularly those that symbolized his devotion. Preparing breakfast for his wife had always been a meaningful gesture, a small act that reinforced the deep connection they shared. The rich, inviting aroma of freshly brewed coffee soon mingled with the scent of breakfast, and he turned toward the doorway, eager to see Sabrina's radiant smile. Yet, when she finally appeared, something felt off. She greeted him with a gentle kiss on the cheek and murmured a quiet thank you, but her warmth was absent. There was a distance in her gaze, a hesitation in her movements. Taking her seat with a steaming mug in hand, she absent-mindedly tapped her fingers against the ceramic, lost in thought. Freddie pushed aside his unease, chalking it up to work stress. She often spoke of looming deadlines, and with the year coming to a close, he assumed the weight of her responsibilities was simply overwhelming her. Still, a quiet voice in the back of his mind urged him to pay attention. There was something different about her today, something he couldn't quite put into words. Determined to lift her spirits, he brought up the dinner reservation he had made at an upscale Italian restaurant. "I booked a table for us tonight," he said, hoping for a spark of excitement in her eyes. Instead, she hesitated, setting her fork down with careful precision. She exhaled before speaking. "I meant to tell you," she said, her voice tinged with regret. "I have a work meeting tonight. It's really important. I can't miss it." Her words carried an apologetic tone, yet there was something else beneath them, something he couldn't quite define. His heart sank, though he masked the disappointment with a practiced smile. "That's okay," he said gently. "We can celebrate this weekend instead." Relief flickered across her face as she returned his smile. She thanked him before excusing herself to get ready for the day. Left alone in the kitchen, Freddie struggled to shake the growing unease. Moments from the past few weeks resurfaced. Her late nights, missed dinners, the cautious tone she often used when discussing work. He tried to dismiss his worries, convincing himself he was reading too much into things. But deep down, a troubling thought took root. Meanwhile, in their bedroom, Sabrina stood before the mirror, carefully applying her makeup. Her pulse quickened, but not from nerves over a business meeting. There was indeed an appointment tonight, but not the kind she had led Freddie to believe. A rush of anticipation coursed through her as she thought of Grant, the man who had awakened emotions she hadn't felt in years. Their secret meetings had become an intoxicating escape from the routine of her marriage. Though guilt gnawed at her, she pushed it aside, convincing herself, like she always did, that this would be the last time. As she exchanged flirtatious messages with Grant, the excitement overshadowed any lingering remorse. She selected her outfit with deliberate care, choosing the sleek dress he had once admired. With one final approving glance at her reflection, she prepared to leave, ready to embrace the night ahead. She stepped back into the kitchen, finding it already spotless. Freddie had cleaned up. Leaning in, she pressed a gentle kiss to his cheek, assuring him they would make up for the missed evening soon. But as the door closed behind her, an undeniable emptiness settled in the room. Freddie remained still. The unease he had tried to suppress earlier now grew stronger. Seeking comfort, he decided to visit Addison, his sister-in-law and a source of unwavering support since she lost her husband. More than ever, he needed someone to confide in. As he drove through the silent streets toward her house, his mind raced with images of Sabrina's recent behavior. He reminded himself to trust her. Trust had been the cornerstone of their 21-year marriage, but no matter how hard he tried, the lingering doubts refused to dissipate. Meanwhile, instead of running errands as she had claimed, Sabrina had returned home to prepare for the evening ahead. Standing in their bedroom, She carefully considered what to wear. Emotions twisted between eager anticipation and a gnawing sense of guilt. What had begun as an innocent flirtation had spiraled into something much deeper, a secret affair that occupied her every thought. Grant's unpredictability, his passion, made her feel things she hadn't felt in years. He was everything she believed was missing from her life with Freddie. When her phone vibrated with a message from him, she couldn't help but smile, though beneath the excitement lurked an undeniable sense of inner conflict. At Addison's home, Freddie tried to distract himself with her warm presence and the glass of wine she handed him, but no matter how hard he tried, his thoughts kept circling back to Sabrina. Eventually, he voiced what had been weighing on him. "I don't know what's going on with Sabrina," he admitted, his voice heavy with emotion. "She feels distant, like I'm losing her." Addison studied him, concern flickering in her expression. "Have you asked her about it?" she asked gently. Freddie sighed, shaking his head. "I have. She always says it's just stress from work, but it doesn't feel like the full truth." He hesitated, pain evident in his eyes. "Part of me is afraid to find out what's really happening." Across town, Sabrina and Grant's evening played out in a world of its own, one filled with electricity and stolen glances. In his arms, she felt a rush of life, a spark she had convinced herself was long gone. The excitement of being with him drowned out the lingering traces of guilt, at least for now. Back at Addison's, Freddie grappled with a painful realization. Something fundamental had shifted in his marriage. The life they had spent more than 2 decades building suddenly felt fragile, slipping through his fingers. No matter how hard he tried to hold on, sensing his turmoil, Addison suggested a walk to clear his mind. The crisp night air offered a fleeting sense of relief, but Freddie's heart remained heavy. Deep down, he suspected he already knew the truth. He just wasn't ready to face it. Reluctantly, he agreed, though each step felt weighted, as if he were moving toward an inevitable reckoning. A suffocating dread settled over him, an unshakable certainty that his life was unraveling in ways he wasn't prepared for. His thoughts looped endlessly, each one sharpening into a painful, relentless question. Finally, he murmured into the quiet night, "I just don't understand. Where did it all go wrong? Was I not enough for her?" Addison's expression softened as she gently rested a hand on his arm. "Freddie, you don't have to have all the answers right now," she said, her voice gentle but firm. "And this isn't your fault. People change, and sometimes it has nothing to do with what you did or didn't do. But you deserve the truth." Her words hit him harder than he expected. The truth. That was what he longed for. No, what he needed. But when it finally came to light, would he have the strength to face it? Would he be able to withstand the weight of the secret Sabrina was hiding? Across the city in a dimly lit bar, Sabrina sat across from Grant. Their laughter mingled with the soft hum of conversation around them. The chemistry between them was undeniable. Sabrina had told Freddie she had a work meeting, but no matter how much she tried to suppress it, guilt continued to creep into her thoughts. Grant's charm, the way he gave her his undivided attention, it made her feel alive again in a way Freddie hadn't in years. Every secret moment she spent with Grant felt like a breath of fresh air, an escape from the suffocating predictability of her marriage. For her, this affair had become more than just a distraction. It was a way to reclaim a sense of control, to feel wanted and appreciated again. But as the night stretched on, an unsettling feeling started to take hold. The sadness she had noticed in Freddie's eyes lately lingered in her mind. Even in his silence, she knew the pain she was causing. She was well aware of how wrong this was, yet her time with Grant felt undeniably right. Excusing herself, she made her way to the restroom. Staring at her reflection in the mirror, the woman looking back at her felt like a stranger. Doubt flickered across her features. Was this truly the path she wanted to follow? Had her dissatisfaction with her marriage been as absolute as she had convinced herself? And deep down, did she still love Freddie? Meanwhile, at Addison's house, Freddie decided to call it a night. He couldn't shake the restlessness gnawing at him. unable to sit still any longer, as he drove through the quiet streets, the early morning hours offering little solace. His thoughts continued to churn. He knew Sabrina was likely home by now, but the idea of facing her filled him with both dread and determination. He couldn't let this tension fester any longer. He needed the truth. When he stepped inside their home, an eerie stillness greeted him. The faint hum of the refrigerator, the rhythmic ticking of the clock, these were the only sounds breaking the silence. Then his eyes landed on the subtle traces of her presence. Her purse rested on the counter. Her phone sat face up on the side table. His breath caught in his throat as he reached for it, hands trembling. A deep, gnawing fear twisted in his stomach, but he couldn't stop himself. And then he saw them, the messages from Grant. Flirtatious emojis, intimate exchanges. Every word was a dagger, each one driving deeper into his heart. The truth stared him in the face, undeniable and merciless. He had feared this for months, but seeing the confirmation shattered any last hope that he had been wrong. His stomach churned, a surge of anger rising in his chest. Just then, Sabrina entered the room, completely unaware of the storm she was walking into. But the moment she saw him sitting there, her phone in his hands, she froze. The space between them thickened with tension, the silence stretching unbearably. Freddie was the one to break it. "So this is where we are now," he said, his voice low but laced with hurt. "This is how you repay me after everything." The color drained from Sabrina's face. Her hands trembled as she instinctively reached out. "Freddie, it's not what you think," she pleaded. A bitter laugh escaped him, full of disbelief. "Not what I think." His voice rose, laced with anger. "You've been lying to me, sneaking around. And now you're going to tell me this isn't what it looks like." Tears welled in her eyes as she stepped closer, but he wasn't finished. He pushed himself to his feet, fists clenching at his sides as he fought to control the storm raging inside him. "You've been distant for months, and I told myself it was just stress. I tried to be patient. I tried to understand." His voice shook with raw emotion. "But the truth is, you gave up on us. You chose him. Grant, the man you replaced me with." Her knees buckled, and she collapsed onto the couch, burying her face in her hands. "I'm sorry," she whispered, barely audible. "I never meant for it to go this far. I was lost." Freddie's jaw tightened. "Lost?" His words cut through the air like a blade. "I was right here the whole time. I never left. But instead of trying to fix what we had, you walked away." Sabrina lifted her tear-streaked face, desperation in her voice. "I didn't want to hurt you, I swear. But I was lonely. Freddie, you changed. You weren't the same man I married. I needed something. Someone." Freddie exhaled, his chest rising and falling as he struggled to rein in his emotions. When he finally spoke, his tone was calm but resolute. "You don't get to destroy us and then ask for forgiveness like it's that simple," he said, his voice firm. "I've had enough." Her voice cracked as she pleaded, "Please, Freddie, don't do this. Don't walk away from me. I'll do anything. I'm so sorry." But his decision was already made. He turned toward the door, gripping the handle tightly. For a moment he hesitated, looking back at her one last time. His eyes were filled with sorrow, tinged with finality. "You had a choice, Sabrina," he said quietly. "And you made it." With that, he walked out the door, slamming shut behind him. Standing on the porch, Freddie drew in a deep breath, the cool night air filling his lungs. The confrontation had left him feeling raw, hollow. But beneath the ache, beneath the heartbreak, there was something else, a faint, unmistakable sense of relief. His marriage was over. So was the betrayal that had consumed it. For the first time in years, Freddie felt free.